Hi everyone, welcome to the WBW webinar. This is a first for us and we are very, very excited to do this. We are hoping that all of you who are joining in are safe and healthy and you continue to remain so. Um, um, Now, some of you might know about the power hours that we've been running at our Santa Clara office every Tuesday. We thought of adapting to what's happening right now when it's like, social distancing and sheltering in place. And we thought, why not go online? And that's how this webinar came about. So what we did was we polled you. We wanted to know what are the questions that you are, what you want answered, that you are facing at this point, and that's the most pressing for you. And as a result of that, we received around 150 questions from all of you. And what we did was we consolidated those questions into like a list of around 15. And those are the questions that we will answer for you today. When I say we, that's me and my senior colleague, Nehal Barot, and we will be making the introductions in some time. Now, what we also want you to know at this point in time is that if any of your question, which is specific to your background or your field of interest, does not get answered today, you do have the option of sending an email to us at wbw@acquire.com. We will have a slide with all the contact details later on during the presentation. So you can send in an email on that and let us know your availability, and I will get in touch with you to answer that question one-on-one. You will also receive a recording of this webinar. And the reason for that is because we want you to have it as a reference. Nehal and I will be giving you some actionable solutions, which will serve as homework for you, which is like which is similar to what your kids are going through, receiving homework through distance learning. So please, keep it as a reference guide and refer to it to help you on this return to work journey. So this is really exciting for us. And now before we just dive into the session today and take you through the presentation, for those of you who are not familiar with WBW, Women Back to Work, what is it that we do? So WBW delivers unique high impact programs for organizations that are looking for individuals wanting to return to the workforce. What we're doing is we're creating systemic pathways so that you can be firmly placed back into the workforce. Another fun fact about Women Back to Work is that we are powered by Acquire. Acquire has been in the field of staffing since 2001 and also has won numerous awards, like it's been the best staffing firm to temp for by staffing industry analysts many times over. So while we are at introductions, let me also tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Deepika and I'm the program director for Women Back to Work. Fun fact about me, I'm a returner at heart. I had a break of 5 years, and before my break, I had worked for around 14 years, 4 years with India's largest media conglomerate. And then the next 10, I helped set up the Indian operations of an Australian edtech firm, and I ran that for 10 years. And so what do I do now? Like I said, I am doing end-to-end program management for WBW, both with the clients who want to engage with us and the candidates who are wanting to return to work. And what has been the result of this tenure? And that has been that we've successfully placed over 40 returners, firmly back into the workforce. And we also have 7 to 8 engaged clients. And this list is growing because we are having conversations with quite a few organizations at this point in time. You will notice that when I made my introduction, I did mention some quantifiable results. I've given you the numbers. Now, that is about me. I'm very honored to be joined by our senior colleague, Nehal Barot. She is Acquire's AVP of recruiting. And now I will let her introduce herself to you. Over to you, Nehal.
Thanks, Deepika. Hi, everyone. Just a brief introduction about myself. My name is Nehal Barot, and I'm the AVP of recruiting here at Acquire. I've been associate in the staffing industry for over 14 years, and I come from a technical background prior to moving into the staffing industry. I've been a developer. I've worked as a business analyst. And for me, the fun fact is I did a career change. For Women Back to Work, my team is responsible for ensuring that returners are prepped and ready to match the positions they're really looking forward to get into. And me and my team stay up to date with the changing industry, implement new recruiting process, and we assess in providing the success for women back to work. Over to you, Deepika. I think we have lots of questions to go through. So
yes, yeah,
let's start.
Sure. Thanks for the introduction, Nehal. All right, so what is one of the first questions, common questions we received, that how do I explain the gap in my resume? The way to go about it, this is a terrifying question for everybody who's taken a break. So our recommendation to you is that you should keep it clear and concise, the reason for your break. Own it. Don't apologize, or there should be no hint of embarrassment or explanation when it comes to the gap. You took the gap for a reason, articulate it clearly and concisely. And what you can also do is talk about your certifications, some certification or volunteer experience that you acquired during this particular break. The reason why I say that is that so that you feel better about the break. When positivity always leads to confidence, so that is a way of giving it a positive spin. And since this is mostly that number one questions which everybody hesitates to answer, especially the ones who've taken a break, what we recommend is that you don't just have it in your head, the reason and what you will like to say, but you actually you frame it, you write it down, and then you practice it till you know it like the back of your hand.
Absolutely, Deepika. Usually for anyone who has to practice, it's even if it's not a returner, definitely has to practice, but even a person who's not a returner has to practice. Opening statement is what's going to help you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, the second question I can take, how do I make sure my resume is not eliminated by any application tracking system? Now, everyone knows that we are moving into the technology space. AI has taken over, and many clients, staffing companies, work with intelligence built behind any ATS. So what is important it is important to do your homework when you're creating and building your resume. You should study the job market. You should be able to know what is a trend in the job market. You should be able to read the job descriptions. You should be able to figure out these are the common job descriptions or job profiles that really matches the skill set I have, and find out those common elements. Use those keywords in your resume and ensure that you're not having obvious gaps showing up on the resume. Yes, you have to own your gaps, but you don't want to make it obvious. You do want to put in elements that would reflect into maybe your voluntary work, maybe your personal life experience, something that you think is going to be beneficial and can be passed on. So please make sure that you are studying the market, you are making sure your resume is up to date to today's trend, you're using keywords, you're making it technical as possible, and you're making things that you're comfortable in talking about, and don't make your gaps as obvious as it is. Try to fill it up.
Completely agree with you, Nehal, on this point, that to try and fill the gaps with the volunteer experience or the certification that you have gained during this period. And it actually relates to the next question that we are going to cover. So how do I communicate, that my volunteer work during the hiatus has helped, and this is something that this is again a commonly asked question, and the way I would like to answer it today is by using an example. Now, before I do that, what is a transferable skill? What is it in the first place? So a transferable skill is something that you acquired during the break, which is the skill that the recruiter is looking for in the role that they want to hire you for. So what I would recommend is that you do a sort of a fit analysis whereby if, for example, you have served on the PTA of your child's school, and for maybe you were the PTA president. I'd like to take this particular example. How will you um, talk about the skills? What are the transferable skills that you have acquired through that particular experience? Now, we know that this is an unpaid position, so you're not really persuading people with authority because of your position, but because of your influence. So that's a skill that's really required in today's cross-functional environment. You are collaborative, you're working with a team, like a PTA president is working with a treasurer, somebody who's looking after communication, somebody who's looking after audit. So and which also shows leadership skills. So these are certain ways. So you have to think about what is it that you did in terms of your volunteer experience, and then translate that into the skill that you acquired. Create a story around it, because you have to communicate that effectively. How did you acquire that particular skill? Because of what you had done in the volunteer experience, and then articulate it. Now, for example, even going back to the PTA president example, you are running meetings, to be able to derive to sound decisions collaboratively, and that just shows that you have project management skills as well. So try and articulate that by doing a fit analysis. Nehal?
Absolutely, Deepika. Any work that anyone does is because you're interested in doing it. You need to figure out what made you continue doing this work. And every person, even if we say for a PTA, I may be interested in setting processes. I may be interested in working on the finance side. I may be interested in being a good team player and taking directions. I may be a person who is interested in initiating and taking ownership about it. So from all of these work, you'll be able to identify what is your personality, where do you see yourself growing. It could be a project management, it could be business analyst, it could be marketing, it could be developing websites or small things. So please dig in and try to figure out what works and what have you learned from these volunteer experiences that can take you into the real life.
Absolutely. And also would like to add that the PTA president, they have to actually nominate themselves, and they're elected by parent members. So, they clearly have great communication skills as well, because they're able to, articulate what is it that why should they be elected to that particular position.
I can take this question, Deepika.
Yeah, Nehal. Yeah.
How do I convince recruiters that the certification I've earned during my gap are equal to gaining a real-time job experience? Everyone believes that when you apply for the job, you believe you're always the best candidate for that job, and you would like the recruiter to move forward. Now, the recruiters are dealing with a lot of candidates, and it is important when you feel that your resume is not being moved forward, you want to listen to the recruiter. You do want to understand what is it that they're looking for. You may have the experience, but it may not have been projected on your resume. So please try to listen to the recruiter, understand what this client is all about, and understand what they're looking for, and try to be creative to figure out what experience do you have that can help the recruiter push your resume forward. Many times the certification involves in the client needing that certification. Sometimes you do a certification that helps you to brush up your skills. And sometimes a certification is you get into a course to get a certification to give you a stepping stone to make sure that you're committed to what you're trying to do. So it is important that any certification you do, put the details in it. Just like you would add in a job description, if that certification requires you to create a kind of app or do some kind of coding, or it involves in doing some kind of action items that would be translated into something which could be used in real time, you want to display that into your resume, just like you would be doing for any job roles and responsibilities. Put in technical keywords. If you're doing coding, make sure you have a GitHub account, share your link. Many times managers or even technical recruiters would like to see the technical codes that you've written, and that would even help. Ask for HackerRank tests or any coding tests that will help you reflect the learnings that you've done and kind of make you stand out as well. So please partner with the recruiter. It has to become more like a win-win situation where you're helping them help you get the job you're looking for.
Absolutely in agreement with you, Nehal. And when you mentioned the HackerRank test, when we were recruiting for a returnship, we did use a HackerRank test to understand the proficiency of the returner. You know, if they said that they were proficient in Java, we did do a HackerRank test to understand, you know, where they stood at in terms of that language. And while I'm talking about a returnship, I think I should, you know, for those of you who don't know what it is a mid-career internship, you know, for individuals who are wanting to return to work, and these roles are exclusive to returners. Just thought I'll add a little bit about that in here, Nehal.
Yep, absolutely. I can take this question as well. How do I build confidence for a technical interview? So this really means that you have won the first battle. Your resume is being shortlisted and you've been asked for an interview request. So what's going to be important? You're stepping in after a gap, and you're getting into the market, and you're going for a technical interview. Make sure you study your resume. The resume is your reflection. You need to make sure you keep going over your resume. The words that you've put a lot of effort in building your resume that reflects you. Go through the job description again. Use a marker. Highlight elements that matches your resume and the job description, because that's the reason why you've been invited for this interview. Be prepared with an opening statement. Just like Deepika had mentioned, make sure you practice. Opening statement is critical. That builds your confidence. And be prepared with the right questions. You do, before you start jumping in and you start getting questions, you do want to interrupt the interviewer, asking them or prompting them that you really appreciate them inviting you for an interview, but you have few questions. And you do want to ask them the questions. You do want to understand what exactly in your resume prompted to have this interview. That gives you, make sure you have a pen and paper ready. This really helps you put a thought process in place as to what on your resume did the interviewer like. It sometimes could be the client that you've worked with. It could be some specific keywords that you had on your resume, or the technology that you've worked with. It could be any aspects. It could be maybe your object-oriented programming that you've been involved in that has initiated this, or it could be an application which is now a legacy application for them, or a tool that they're interested. So try to understand from an interview perspective, why have you received this interview? The second thing is you do want to ask that what skill set are they really looking for in an ideal candidate? The experience, what is an ideal candidate for them? Try to understand what's there in the interviewer's mind. At the same time, you want to set the expectation and ask them, what is the expectation in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? So in that way, you're building confidence for yourself and for the interviewer as well, that you've thought through, you're committed, you're really thinking through how to make this work. And all of this note will help you proceed with the further interview or in your next round of interview. Try to make sure that with the notes that you have, before you answer your question, take a deep breath. Make sure you're relating your answers with an example that you had in the past. It could be a co-op, it could be a real-time experience, or it even could be something from your volunteer work or your lifetime experience that you have. Make sure you're practicing in front of a mirror. It really gives you a good confidence if you're talking in front of a mirror, and it helps. It's not just for returners, it's even for people who have been working and they're back in the job market as well.
Absolutely, Nehal. You know, confidence comes in when you are well prepared and you can deliver your best. So to add on to Nehal's point, you know, these are some more tips for returners to prepare for an interview, something to look out for while you're preparing the technical aspects as well. So work on overcoming your imposter syndrome. Now, what does imposter syndrome mean? It means that you doubt your own abilities and you think that you have this persistent fear of being found out as a fraud. No one will believe in your abilities if you don't believe in them yourselves. And like, how will you be articulate in an interview? How will you communicate effectively if you don't even believe in what your strengths are? Second, I would like to talk about and repeat what Nehal said, and I can't emphasize this enough. You have to review the job description and your resume very well. You should know your resume like the back of your hand, because the interview will be based on what you have said on your resume. Resume is like a marketing brochure that you have about yourself. You will mention only the things you want to market about. So think about it while you are creating one. Also, research the company and your interviewer. We do have, we are able to, we have the facility to figure out who our interviewer is through LinkedIn, and also about researching the company. It's not only the website, but also what is the media reports about them on the net. What are the, press releases, read that, follow them on LinkedIn. Look at YouTube videos that they have posted. Is there any presentation that you can look upon? So these are the various tips we have for you when it comes to researching the company. After you've put together your resume, always, like when you are interviewing, you should have a copy of your resume, and you should always take a copy of your resume with you. Like, I mean, now of course, if it happens virtually, then you should have a printout ready with you. Take notes, make it conversational. Why am I talking about taking notes? You should be carrying a notepad and a pencil, so that should a interviewer ask you, two questions, question which has two ends to it, what you should know, you should remember that you should answer both of them, two-part questions. And also, if this is your first round, then you will refer to the notes should you get another round of interview with the employer. Coming to how should you approach, answering a question, and this is called PAR, which is the problem, action and result, or STAR, which is situation, task, action and result. Now I'm going to go back to my introduction. As when I was introducing myself of what I do in WBW, I talked about how many returners we have successfully placed and the clients that we have been engaged with. There was a reason for that, because I was actually quantifying the result of what we have done so far. So that's just an example for you. And also to give you an example of the STAR method during COVID-19, how do we look at it? So the situation is that it's, there is an outbreak. What were the tasks that we were involved? What were the tasks that we were allocated because of the situation? And that was digitization of our services. What is the action that we took? We put together a webinar. And what is the result of that action? That it will be a value add for the returners who have joined in today. So that's a simple example of the STAR methodology. Nehal, anything that you'd like to add?
You've covered really good points, Deepika. Just want to add that when you do a research about the interviewer, it's always good to take the note about his name. And when you greet the interviewer by the name, it makes a good connection during the interview. You always want to make sure you're able to do eye contact during the interview as well. That builds your confidence. You also want to make sure that when you use the technology, just like what Deepika mentioned about PAR and STAR, you want to quantify it. You want to make sure that I use this technology. This is what I've done. And because of that, this is the result, the outcome that was there. You always want to kind of justify it as to how it was being used and what was the benefit for the company and what did you achieve from this. And this will give you a really good way of taking things forward.
That's true.
I can take this question. What would help me prepare for an in-depth technical interview? So when you're invited for an in-depth technical interview, which really means you've covered the first round, where you've taken notes, you've understood about this requirement, you've qualified the job description with what the client is really looking for. And now it's the next step. So now you really know what are the technology that they're focusing on, what did they like about in your resume, and what are the areas that you should be prepared for. Sometimes you may be applying for a Python role, but you've never worked with Python, but you've been a Java developer in the past, which really means the reason why you've been invited for this interview is because of your strong object-oriented background that you've come with. Sometimes you may be invited for a testing role. You've never worked as a tester, but the focus has been your development background that you had in the past and your confidence that you've displayed about your interest in development learning new things, and at the same time being involved in testing and enjoying testing as well, even if it was at a small module level. So it is important that you use your notes, you go through the job description, and you start preparing for your technical interview. You've got Google. Any search engine is going to help you come up with questions that's going to help you for any interview prep. But it's always going to be important, go through your resume and ensure you talk about everything that you've mentioned. So whatever you have on your resume, even the smallest detail, you should be able to talk about. Do not put things that you're not comfortable talking about. Many times there will be a skill set on your resume that you've never realized, but that's a skill set that has brought the attention of the interviewer. It's not there in the job description, but they're interested that you've worked with this methodology. I'm kind of curious, how did you use it? And you're put in a spot and you feel that, where did this come from? So make sure you're reading your resume and everything that you've put there, you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Ask the recruiter that has arranged your interview for a prep call. This is something that we take a lot of pride in at Acquire. We do prep calls before every interview, depending on what stage you are. And these prep calls really help you take better control of the interview. Every client is different. Every team is different. And ensuring that you know about their culture, you know about the kind of questions they would be asking, what kind of whiteboard tests they may have, and what is the process, so that you kind of know what you would be expecting. So please make sure that you keep enough time for a prep call, and you do ask for another prep call if it's required. Ask for a HackerRank test or any coding prep test. This really helps you to prepare yourself. You can ask for a repeat test until you feel confident, but this will build your confidence when you have a whiteboard. And again, back all your examples with your past experience. It is important that anything that's been asked for, it could be related to how you've managed conflict, how you've dealt with a tight deadlines. You've got multiple projects that you work with. How do you prioritize them? You've been asked to work with specific technologies. How did you pick? Which one did you use? So there's so many things that you could be asked, which is scenario-based from a technical point of view. You want to back it up with a technical answer. Give an example. This is what you've done, and this has been the outcome. It could be right, it could be wrong, but what's important is you have the backup, you have the experience, and you have examples to put it forward. And any questions that is put in front of you, if you do not know the answer, don't be afraid to say so. Let them know, unfortunately, you're not aware of it, but this is what I think, or I would definitely be interested to learn more. Do not try to give answers for things you're not familiar with.
Absolutely, Nehal. You know, one can say that I didn't really get a chance to work on this tool, but I did work on something else, and I came up to speed fairly quickly on that. That's another way to answer a question that you don't know the answer.
Absolutely, yes.
Nehal.
Yes, I can take this one. How do I job hunt after a significant gap in my employment? So again, it goes back. You have to do your research. When you're doing job hunting, irrespective being a returner or not a returner, it is a full-time job. You have to be committed. You have to ask yourself, is this really what I really want to do? If it is yes, you have to put time aside, just like you're doing a full-time job, and you have to be committed. A lot of things are involved. You have to study the market. You have to understand what is the career path that's going to suit you. When I say study the job market, you need to understand which demography are you trying to target. What are the clients out there? What are kind of jobs that are available? What interests you? What are the people out there on LinkedIn that you can network with for this kind of job? What kind of leads can you generate? And you need to make sure that whatever knowledge you, and talk to a lot of people, whatever knowledge you're accomplishing, you should make sure you're reflecting that onto your resume. Your resume is something that will need rework. You will have to make 1 version, 2 versions, 3 versions, 4 versions until it really reflects yourself. The resume is the first gateway to get you in, to get the first round of interview, or even get to you speak to a recruiter. Resume is important. You want to put in information on your resume that would trigger curiosity for someone to have a conversation with you. Once you're happy with your resume, do not rush to put your resume on the job board. Take time. Make sure you've studied the market, you've studied things, and then you're uploading your resume on the job boards, on LinkedIn, because from that point onwards, the AI starts doing the trick. It starts picking up your resumes, recruiters start reaching out, it gets downloaded in different ATS, and then it starts matching it with different jobs. Make sure you're applying to different jobs. Make sure you're going to different career pages and adding yourself to get notification. Don't be afraid to get these notifications. You can always disable them when you want, but it's important for you to know what's out there in the job market and the kind of jobs. Now, if you're talking to someone, a person who may be in the East Coast and you're looking for a job in the West Coast, their intention or their advice would be completely different. The technology that may be used in the East Coast would be different than what's in the West Coast. It could be different testing tools that they would be using, different development languages that they would be using. The clients would be different. The interview process would be different. So make sure that when you're doing a job market search, you are focused in the geography that you're really trying to target for, and you start studying and start drilling into it.
Absolutely, Nehal. And then, like you said, be available and network. I think networking is the very important element of our job search and goes a long way. In fact, whenever I meet with the returners during the power hour as well, I tell them that the first most important question is to figure out which role you would like to apply to. And then second, of course, is networking. And this is a question that we receive, that how do I build a network? Now, what is a network? A network can be your family, your friends, your children's friends, parents, your ex-colleagues, your neighbors. It could be just about anybody. So how do you build it even further? So now I think the number one thing that I would recommend to do is check in with them. What does check in mean? Like right now at a time when there's an outbreak, reconnect with them. If you have them on your LinkedIn, just check in to see how they're doing in today's time. And while you are doing that, you can also talk about, it's going to be a conversation. You can talk about what is it that you are up to, and you can announce to the world that you are looking for a job. So that is one way of building a network. Second is a new concept that I'm introducing today, is to create, and some of you might have heard it, create a personal board of directors. What does that mean? A personal board of directors is your group, your inner circle, somebody who this group is invested in your career advancement. They believe in your strengths and they can help you in various ways. So for example, when Nehal said that you should be working hard at your putting together a resume, and it just can't be one iteration, there has to be at least 4 iterations to it till you get it right. There could be somebody who does the resume review for you. There could be another person who has the time and the willingness to listen to your elevator pitch, which is you're introducing yourself, articulating about your skills and your strengths, and they would help you refine it. Another person could help you with research, on the role that what is happening, what are the current trends in the role or in the industry that you would like to get back to. So this is a bit about the personal board of directors, and we will be having a webinar on this topic soon, and we'll tell you more about it at the end of the presentation. Another tip is LinkedIn is your friend. Whoever you connect with, if they are on LinkedIn, send a request to add them. It really helps. I'll give you a personal example. My high school friends, like classmates, got together and they created a WhatsApp group. And what I've done is I've gone and connected with them on LinkedIn as well. So these are some tips that we would like to give you to build a network. Nehal, anything that you'd like to add to this?
No, I think you've covered really good points, Deepika. I do want to emphasize that everyone takes the personal board of directors really seriously. It is important that you know whom you're going to reach out to. When we say about staying in touch, it is also important that you stay available as well. You are in the job market. It's a full-time job. You need to make sure that you're available in a specific time period for having conversations, talking to recruiters, talking to your well-wishers, working on your resumes, being open to take feedbacks and work on it. There's a lot of social media, Facebook groups where you can start reaching out and understanding different jobs that are available in the market. The more you network, the more results you will be seeing. And many times you may feel that I am off job right now, I'm taking a gap, but there is someone out there who is interested and waiting for you to be back in the job market. And the moment you broadcast it, even before you know you've been asked for an interview. And that has happened to me as well. When I joined Acquire, I never applied for Acquire. The moment I was available, or they knew that I would be available, I was approached, and here I am working with Acquire for now 10 years. So it is important. You don't know the magic of it.
Absolutely, Nehal. In fact, I have a personal story to add as well. So I had connected with Amar, who's the founder of Cryo on LinkedIn, because he and I are from the same management institute. And that's how I'm working with Cryo today. So
Yep.
yes, networking really, really helps in getting a job. Nehal, would you like
Okay,
to
I can
respond to
take this
this?
question.
Yeah.
Yes. Do technical certification matter? We did talk about this briefly earlier. It does matter. It depends on how you plan to use this certification. What is the purpose of it? Do your research. Make sure it follows your passion. Don't take advice from others that, hey, do this. AI is popular. Get an AI certification or course done in AI. You have to understand, how does it backtrack with the experience that you're bringing in. Study the job market again. The job market, the research that you do is going to help you about the certification. When you look at the job description, you would see that specific certification is required, like A+ certification or PMP certification or even Agile Scrum. So look at what does the job market tell you. Do they highlight certain certification? If they do, then it's great. That's what's in demand. But again, certain certifications you do want to take, that's going to help you brush up your technical skills, build the commitment and the confidence back into you. The moment you take a certification, it's a commitment that you're doing, that you're going to follow through this whole process. You're going to take the exam and you're going to clear this. It gives you a sense of commitment, a confidence to jump back into the job market. And again, it helps you fill the gap. So even when you have a gap in the resume, you can always relate it to the work that you've been doing with the help of this certification, or staying up to date and enhancing what you've learned from the certification that's going to help you in the real-time life.
That's true. And this is also related to what you just talked about, like what courses, technical certificates are relevant today. Nehal.
Yes. So again, study the job market, study the demographic. You plan to do a job hunt, and it is really important. Technology changes every day. So make sure that you really know that you're picking up a course or a certification that matches the demographic that you're in. Ask the right questions before you start any course or certification. How is this going to benefit you? This is understand your background. How do you relate this as an enhancement to what you've been doing? Make sure you understand how does this fit into your career goal as well. Understand your competition and how do you plan to stand out. Just taking an example, even for myself, it would be that when you try to do a change in a career or you're trying to make things work for you, you always want to see how does this backtrack with your career. So for myself, I'm a civil engineer who moved into development, worked as a business analyst, and now I'm in the staffing industry, which really means that I've done a lot of career changes. But there is a fine line that if you look at it, there's a pattern that follows. As a civil engineer, I was into structural engineering, which was associated with computers. So I had the enjoyment of creating a logic, creating the algorithm that was required from a development, but that was related to structures. Now I got involved into development, which was more into the backend database. And the backend, again, you need data structures, you need algorithms and everything that ties into that piece. After being successful in doing development, I moved into the business system analyst and into supply chain, which kind of helped me use my technical knowledge, use the knowledge that I've developed, which comes in how to develop the processes, how to make sure that it's aligned to what the users need. And I started working in the supply chain. And now I'm in the staffing industry, helping out with processes. In the supply chain, I was managing resource planning for materials. Here is resource planning for candidates and with their jobs. So you see a relation. There's a process development that needs to be done. There's a lot of development that has to be done in the back end as well, that I use my technical skills, a lot of reports that has to be generated. So there is a path, there's a line that kind of helps you develop this career path, and you have to make sure you're asking the right questions and you're making sure that you're putting in the right puzzles in place, and you're seeing this is why I want to get into this career or this course or this certification.
Thank you so much for giving that example to us, Nehal, because it really ties in well. You've just talked about your career switches, and I think it relates really well to what this particular question, to answer this question as well. Would you like to take a
Yep.
shot at it? Yeah.
I can take it, yes. And then I am sure you can give an example about your career
Yes.
gap and how you got
Yeah.
into this as well.
Yes.
So how do I manage a career switch and a gap at the same time? When you have a gap in a career, it's a good reason for you to do a career switch. You can sit back, you can reflect what you've been doing in the past, what is your passion, what would you want to get into. It gives you a meaning to think about yourself and do the right career switch that you would like to do. You want to make the career switch which is in line to your past. So for example, if you were a developer, you want to get back into development, but you've got a gap of maybe 3 years or even more, but you've been passionate about object-oriented concepts and the methodology that's behind it. Now, technology keeps changing, so it's really hard to say that, oh, I was a really good Java developer. My dream is to get into working with JavaScript libraries. How do you gain this experience? So you have to think about it, that when you're doing this, you would have to do a career switch, which really means sometimes you will have to take into a job which is related to testing. And that kind of testing job these days, especially in the Bay Area market, requires a person to come from a development background where you develop a lot of automation scripts. You do a lot of in-house framework development that helps because it's not used out of the box framework, which gets you back into the development piece, but you're doing a career switch. You're moving into testing / development, and then you're learning the techniques, you're learning and coming up to scale on the development piece, and you're moving back into development. Or you can, if you enjoy it and you can make a proper balance, you would decide to stay into testing. The same thing would happen if you were a developer or a business analyst who enjoy doing a functional task. You enjoy working in a very tight scheduled environment. You're able to take the pressure well. You may want to choose to become a project manager and take up courses or certification related to that. So you're doing a career switch which kind of in line that you've never been a project manager before, but as a business analyst, you were doing some kind of task which involved into project management, different things. And you want to make sure that you're understanding how is this switch happening? What is the past experience that you have that can drive the switch? Now, once you've got this outlined really well, you want to now work on your resume. You're not asked to modify and change your resumes, but you want to make sure that you're highlighting stuff that is important with your career change. So in the past, I was a developer. I want to move into a testing role. So now I would put some elements of the development piece that I've done, but I'll emphasize on the testing, the test cases, the test scripts that I've done on small modules. And I would make sure that that's highlighted as a developer. This is what I've been doing, which kind of relates into moving into testing and gives a confidence for a person looking at your resume. This person is someone who can definitely get into testing. The same thing goes for project management. You may be a developer, you may be a business analyst, and you want to get into project management. So you want to keep the elements of your development a little bit, showing that you are a technical person. You know technology, but you've been doing a lot of things associated with project management. And you want to start highlighting those things into your resume, which you've never done before. And that shows you the progression and how you're able to make a career switch. And even in the gap, you've done voluntary work. You've been involved into doing different things. What are the stuff that goes in line to what you've been doing in the past? There's always a pattern. Try to identify that pattern and show a gradual progression in your career, which will result into a career switch.
Yeah, thanks, Nehal. You know, another what I've noticed in my experience is that there's so many software developers who get in touch with us, or software engineers who get in touch with us and who've taken a break, and they now want better work-life balance. So they pivot to program management, and technical program management is a great role for them to pivot to. I'll also give you another example to understand how people have made a pivot which made sense. One is, there is a person who is in the brand and marketing field, and she is now working as a talent acquisition. So that is, she's promoting the talent brand. So she's marketing the company. And if you really look at it, the two are related, and it is like a transferable skill that we talked about.
Absolutely. It's sometimes you don't realize it, but there is something always hidden in your resume that you just have to sit, talk to other people, figure out what it is, and keep working on it until you figure out what it is.
Yes, I mean, connecting the dots, I think, creates the magic. So for everybody who's attending today, I just like to let you know we've got 3 more questions left to answer, and this one is again a question that's frequently asked. What are the top concerns a hiring manager has about a returner? Now, when a hiring manager is hiring a returner, their biggest concern is whether you will be able to deliver uh, day one. If not day one, how much ramp up time is it going to take for you? So your capability, and the reason for that question is because somewhere you might have taken a break to get better work-life balance. So they want to know your capability, whether you are able to balance both, and if you are committed to your career, are you able to adapt, to be flexible? Can you take the pressures at work? And I think the number one question that every hiring manager has is, will you be productive? Can you do the job that you have been hired for, the one that you are interviewing for? So these are some of the top concerns we have seen a hiring manager have about a returner, and we do address them during the training that we do with them. Again, a related question: what are the most common challenges that must be overcome by moms returning to work? So these are challenges that you face, and this is what you've listed, and this is what you need to overcome to be able to return to the workforce. Lack of response to job applications. What does this challenge do to your motivation levels? It demotivates you. But what we have been talking over and over again is that positivity is what is going to give you the confidence. So try not to be demotivated with lack of responses. You have to be committed to this job search. Looking for a job is equal to a job. You should be consistently putting in at least 3 to 4 hours every single day and stay on track. That's when you'll start seeing the results. Proving the relevance to the role that you've applied for. How are you relevant? How do you have the skills from a previous job that you held, or during the volunteer work experience, or because of the certifications that you have acquired? And hopefully it's now beginning to make sense that how you can do that and how you can reflect that in your resume as well as while you're answering questions during the interview. Commitment is something that I have already spoken about. It's a non-negotiable. You have to stay committed to the process. There is no timeline. We cannot, unfortunately, we can't give you a timeline that this is the amount of time it will take you to get back. We've seen in our experience, we've seen instances where there have been returners who walked into our office and got a job in 2 weeks. And then there are some which, for whom it takes a longer time. So stay committed to it. Accept the feedback from experts. If you are sending your resume for review, work on the feedback that you're getting, the changes, make the changes on your resume till it is absolutely perfect. Like Nehal said, don't be in a hurry to post it on job boards. Be absolutely certain that this is the best version of the resume that you want to go out there, in the market. And also cold feet. At times, what we have seen is we think we are ready. We think we want to get back to work. But when you're actually faced with that opportunity and when it starts progressing and you are probably at the last round of the interview, there are some questions in your mind that, am I actually ready for it? We do have instances. So think through all this, because these are challenges. This is what you have to overcome, to be triumphant in this particular journey. Some things to think about.
Absolutely, Deepika.
Yeah.
I just want to add a few more points to this.
Sure.
That we can help you if you're helping yourself. You will have to take the initiative yourself to help yourself, and we can help you along. It is important that you stay adamant in what you've picked up. It's a task that you've taken, and don't give up. If there's something that is important for you, discuss it with your family. Make sure that they understand how important this is for you, and make sure you're getting all the support that you really need. It is like you're back into the job and you're looking for support. It's the same thing. This is a pre-assessment for you to be confident enough for returning. And the more you're confident, the more confidence you're going to give to the hiring manager when you go for an interview.
Yeah.
You can build the confidence only by being confident yourself. This is something that you are really excited for, you're looking forward, and it would show up in the way you're talking. It will show up in the way you're expressing yourself. It'll show up in your eyes. It'll show up in your voice. And people do read this. And it is important that make sure this is what you're looking for. If you're committed, take all the necessary steps that you really need. It's a journey and you have to go through it. And I'm sure with all the support that we can provide, and Deepika and the team, I think you will get a good career change and you'll be back into work soon.
Yes, that's the idea, Nehal. That is what makes us the happiest, to actually see the returner getting back into the workforce. That's what we're working towards. So this comes to the last question: should I change my job search strategy during the pandemic? So what we have seen so far, this is an evolving situation, like we all know. We do know that there are employers who are continuing to hire. For example, our own client, Farmers Insurance. And you can find out more information on the WBW website on the roles that they have to offer. But even if the roles were to dry up, our recommendation to you would be continue to do what you are doing in terms of your job search. You do have a lot of actionable solutions that you should be working with during this time. It's a great time to prepare, to be completely ready when things return to normalcy and the job market picks up once again. It is also a time to get mentally, emotionally, and logistically ready. Now, this point is connected to our point from the previous slide, which was having cold feet. You won't have cold feet if you're completely ready. When I say logistically ready, what does that mean? If you have children, you should have a plan that should you get a job opportunity, should there be an employer who says, I wanted to join this coming Monday, you should have a plan in place along with your partner as to who is going to be doing, taking the responsibility of picking up and dropping, when things return to normal, or who's going to be fixing food, or who's going to be taking majority. So it's going to be a shared responsibility, because it's possible that you've been doing most of the, taking load of the domestic responsibilities. So make a plan. Right now is the time. And also, the most important part is adapt. Move out of your comfort zone. Preparing for an interview is something we don't intrinsically like, because you're putting yourself out there. But get comfortable with virtual meetings, for example. Because for all we will be having virtual interviews, and we are having the first phone screen that we usually do is a video interview. So get comfortable with it. Move out of your comfort zone. Nehal, anything that you'd like to add to this?
Yep, I just want to make sure that no one takes this as a vacation time and a family time. You have the steps that you've taken, 2 steps that you've taken already. The moment you relax during this period, you're taking 4 steps back, and it's really hard to get back into the rhythm. And it's important that you continue doing it. Take the advantage of it. People are at home, so you can network easily. People are continuously there on social media. Your outreach will become better. Make sure you've added yourself to all the different job searches, and you're getting notifications in your inbox about the different jobs that are coming up, and making sure you're aligned to it, you're ready for it. Have someone do a mock interview right now with you. Be prepared. Strategize things. Just like Deepika mentioned, it is important that you follow these steps and don't take this period as a light period and think that once everything's back to normal, I'll start my job hunt again.
Absolutely. All right, so a bit about the action items that you have from today. You can visit our website. As you can see, there is a tab of for the job board. Look up the jobs that are there. Review the job description. see whether you're a fit or not, and you can apply to jobs. Now, we are giving you the facility not only to to apply to WBW jobs, but also since WBW is backed by Acquire, you can also go to the Acquire job board, look up the job ID that you're interested in applying to, apply to it, and then send us an email with the job ID. We'll alert the recruiter about your application and give you feedback on why they think you are a match, or if they think that you aren't. So this is another action item for you after this webinar. These are certain, what is the email ID that you write to, wbw@acquire.com. Join our Facebook group, follow us on LinkedIn. The reason I'm saying that is because anything that we are doing is going to be posted on these groups as well as on the LinkedIn page. It will also be on our website, on the home page of our website. You will see, if you scroll down, you will notice that there is a section called Our Latest, and you will know what is it that we are actively involved with at this point in time. So which is the next webinar, like we talked about networking, and how important it is to get you back into the workforce. So we're very excited to announce that our next webinar will be on the power of networking. It'll be led by Nehal Mehta. She's the director of Global Strategic Alliances at Genesis. You can look her up on LinkedIn and wait for us to announce the date and time for this particular webinar. Nehal, any final
I just want to add, Deepika.
Yeah.
Yes, I would like you to let all the returners, let them know that every company has a different department in place now that looks for diversity, looks for inclusion. So you may want to give them a little insight about that, and you may want to let them know that what are things that you're doing behind the scene during this period and trying to build more opportunities for them.
Yeah, a great point. Thanks for the reminder, Nehal. So the good news is that most of the organizations now have a diversity and inclusion division, and they are looking to tap into a diverse workforce, and returners being one of the important ones. So what we're doing is we're connecting with the D&I officials at various companies, letting them know about the Women Back to Work program and the great returner talent pool that we have, so that we can create as many opportunities as possible for you. And talking about diversity, diversity, it actually leads to good decision making, because you get many thought processes. And I'm linking it back to your personal board of directors. Why did we say you build a board of directors? And you learn about that in this power of networking session. It's because everybody will be specializing in something and getting you that diversity of thought, which will help you take a sound decision when it comes to your return to work journey. Nehal, anything else that you would like to talk about before we wind up?
Nope, I think this is pretty good. I just want to wish all the returners happy hunting, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Yeah, and the last thing that I would like to tell you, and this is a real life story. One of the returners we placed, who's now firmly back into the workforce as a full-time employee. She said that when a woman or a returner goes back into the workforce, that self-fulfillment not only raises their happiness quotient, but also the happiness quotient of the entire family. So all the power to you. All the best. You've got some homework to do, and we are hoping that you will progress in your return to work journey and be back into the workforce soon. So that's it from our end today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.